What's going on, guys? Jacob Orth back here with another video of Jacob's Life in Vegas, coming to you guys from the most famous street in the world, all right? Las Vegas Boulevard, Sin City. And here in Sin City, sometimes bad things can happen, okay? And I want you guys to be safe when you come here on your vacation. So I'm gonna give you guys today 10 tips to help you stay safe on your vacation here in Las Vegas. So be sure to subscribe. There's always more stuff like this coming in the future. Now, tip number one, this happens before you even get here to Las Vegas, okay? When you're online, you're researching, you're booking your hotel and all that kind of stuff, and you're all excited to come here, you're looking at shows and things to do, take some time to just familiarize yourself with the area, with the Strip and with downtown. Particularly if you've never been here before, or maybe you came when you were a kid, or it's been a lot of years since you've been here to Las Vegas and you're not as familiar with the hotels on the Strip, off the Strip, downtown, whatever the case is. Take some moment to just familiarize yourself with the area. Notice I didn't say you had to memorize or be an expert in it, just become familiar. At least know what part of the Strip or part of town your hotel is in, because I've had this before working security where somebody gets really intoxicated and you're trying to say, hey, let's get you a ride to your hotel, where are you staying at? And they can't remember the name of their hotel, or they weren't the ones who booked it. They came with a group of friends and they got too drunk. Their friends are nowhere to be found. We say, okay, well, at least where are you staying? Are you on the Strip? Are you off the Strip? Are you downtown? If you can at least give us an area, or give the person an area who's trying to help you, you say, well, I'm at the south end. So they say, okay, well, we're at the beginning of the Strip. We're by the Las Vegas sign. Then I'm saying, okay, are you at the Mandalay Bay? Are you at the Delano? Are you at the Luxor? Are you at the Excalibur? And oftentimes you say one of those, they'll be like, oh yeah, it's that one, it's the Excalibur, that's where I'm at. And they can remember. So if at least you have an idea if you're staying at the south end of the Strip, at the north end of the Strip, you're within 1 block, 2 blocks of the Strip, you're downtown, or you're in Henderson, or whatever the case is, just get a little bit familiar so you can help yourself if you need it in a situation. Safety tip number 2 in Las Vegas, keep your personal items in your front pockets. Okay, some people I know like to carry their phone in their back pocket, carry their wallet in their back pocket, whatever the case is. Some people have been doing that for years, and they've got like their wallet imprinted on their back pocket. They've been doing it for so long. When you're here in Vegas, obviously there are tens of millions of people who come here every single year. There are certain weeks or weekends of the year where there will be hundreds of thousands of people in here on the Strip, around town, just for that short time. And with large crowds like that, there are bound to be people who are trying to take advantage of tourists visiting, take advantage of the big crowds. They can take something out of your pocket and sneak off and sneak away in the crowd, or run away, or whatever the case is. Because lots of times you're here on the Strip, you're looking at the hotels, you're looking at the casinos, you're looking at the lights, you're seeing all this cool stuff to do. There's a lot of things that grab your visual attention. So if you're looking somewhere else, it's easy for someone who's trying to target you to come behind you, take something out of your back pocket, and bam, they're gone. The third tip I will give you for safety here in Las Vegas is when it comes to your valuables and comes to items that are more precious to you, be sure to utilize that safe in your room. Okay, maybe you're here and you're going to use your driver's license as your ID when you're out and about, but you had to use your passport to get here, or you just like to carry your passport on you. Throw that in your safe. Keep it in there, keep it safe, because there's 2 reasons. 1, in case your hotel room gets broken into, or 2, in case there's staff or someone else is in your room, or whatever the case is, okay? Crazy things can happen here in Vegas, that you have your stuff locked away and safe so that it's safe from other people who could potentially take it. The fourth tip I will give you for Las Vegas safety on your vacation is to do your best to stay out of the bad neighborhoods, okay? I'll say bad like this because that's subjective to a certain degree to people. Is you stay here and you stay on the Strip. Right now, crime can happen on the Strip, of course, right? Crime can happen anywhere. But if you stay to the Strip, if you stay, over on Fremont Street, where usually the big crowds are, for the most part, you're gonna be okay. If you start wandering off behind the Stratosphere, a lot of people, that's the place, has the reputation, and Naked City is what it's called, for being dangerous. If you wander to areas between like the Stratosphere and Fremont Street, that area is not as nice. Some people think that's a really dangerous area too. And then some of the spots really just right outside the Strip that are within a couple blocks, a lot of those areas are often not as nice either. So if you stick to the tourist spots, that's where you're probably gonna be safer. Again, there's never a guarantee, but just be advised that if you're gonna come on vacation and you really don't have any need to be going outside the Strip or Fremont or outside the tourist areas, you're safest to probably just stick to that. Tip number 5 for Las Vegas safety is when you're in your room, if you're someone who really wants to make sure that your door is secure and that kind of thing, when you're sleeping at night, just use a door stopper, okay? If you're really concerned about the hotel security, or for some reason you don't have a lot of faith in the hotel security and you want to make sure that your room is even more secure than just having the lock on there, just use a door stopper. You can put that under your door, wedge it in there, and that'll help keep your door shut and help keep another level of safety that's provided to you while you're in your room. Safety tip number 6 here in Las Vegas on vacation: do not keep all of your cash on you in just one pocket, okay? I would really recommend, for those of you visiting here and you're not familiar with the area and that kind of thing, to keep cash in some other spot on you, whether that be a separate pocket, whether that be in your sock, your underwear, in your jacket pocket if you're wearing a jacket, whatever the case is, because if something happens where you lose your wallet gets stolen from you, and your credit cards are gone, or you get too drunk and then someone makes it's easy now to rob you because you're too intoxicated, especially if you're by yourself and you're not aware of what's going on around you, and you lose all your cash, depending on where you're at around town, you can wind up being in trouble, even just to get a taxi ride back to where you're staying. So if you got that extra 20 or something like that on you, that could wind up bailing you out in a tough situation. Tip number 7, when you are here in Las Vegas, I really encourage you to have more than just one form of ID. I would encourage you to have multiple forms of ID. And this may be a bit more particular to those of you who are younger, especially you're trying to go to nightlife establishments, you want to go to the nightclub or the gentleman's club or a bar or lounge, whatever the case is. Usually the younger you are, the more strict a place is going to be on having an ID. Although I have seen in the casino before where some people who looked like they were in their 50s didn't have their ID trying to get into a lounge, and the security had to say, sorry, like, you have to have an ID to get in. So Vegas can be very corporate in that regard. So having a backup ID can be good in case there's ever some issue with your ID trying to get into a place, and they might ask, do you have anything else? You say, sure, you have your driver's license, but you might also say, hey, I also have my passport, or I have my military ID, or you have a concealed carry weapons permit, or some other government issued ID that they can use as a secondary ID. Also, it helps, say you are flying in and out of Las Vegas, which a lot of people do on vacation. A lot drive, but a lot also fly. If you lose an ID and you need to fly back to wherever you're flying back to, you have a backup that you can use. I also do not recommend having all of your IDs on you at one time either. So again, like I mentioned earlier, lock it up in your safe. Maybe you brought a passport and a driver's license. So keep your driver's license on you, but lock your passport in your safe at your room. That way, if you lose your driver's license, obviously that sucks, but at least you have another ID so you can get through some of the hurdles that you may face when you're trying to leave. Because I've seen people before who were, come, again, working in nightlife, people who would come to the club at like 6, 7, 8 in the morning because they lost their ID and they got to catch a flight in like 2 hours, and they think, they're going to be stuck here in Vegas, which over 40 million people visit here every year. And there's probably a few people who lose their ID, especially in Vegas. So you can fly out without an ID. So don't freak out if you don't have it. You can fly out without an ID. I've asked at the airport before. They say you can, but all they said was they have other ways of finding out who you are. I don't know exactly what that means, but have more than one ID. Don't carry all of your IDs on you at the exact same time, but have a second ID as a backup when you're here, regardless of what age you are. Tip number 8, and here's another one for IDs that can help you out. This is going to be particularly if you're traveling and you only have one form of ID. So if that's a passport, if that's a driver's license, and that's all you have to identify yourself, I would say this: take a picture of your ID on your phone. Have it on your phone with one point I want to make. If you're going to use your driver's license or something with your address on it, I would cover that up on your ID. So have your ID, cut out a little piece of paper wherever you need to cover your address where that is, and then take a picture of that. Because if you're going to be in a situation where, say, you lost your ID and you're trying to go into a nightlife establishment, I have seen it work before. There's zero guarantee, but I have seen it work before where someone says, I have a picture of my ID on my phone. Now, it can depend on a variety of factors, particularly your age, if you're trying to get in. But no one at a club is going to need to know what your address is. No security at any establishment is going to have to know where you live. If you do happen to come into a situation where you have to talk to a law enforcement officer about, where you live, you're a victim of some crime or whatever the case is, and you have to deal with a police officer, you can give them your name, and then they can look up your address. You give them your ID, you can give them an address and just update it, and they can look it up themselves. So I also say that too, because if you lose your phone or if your phone gets stolen, someone goes through there, even if they find your ID, at least they don't have your address on there, okay? At least they don't know where you live. So I would just say that as a backup, you can do that. Have your ID on your phone in case you lose it, so you can try to use it at the airport, or just, again, use it to get into some club if you need to. Cover up your license, or excuse me, cover up your license. Cover up your address on your ID or on your license. Again, in case it gets stolen or something like that, even if you do need to show it to some security guard, they don't need to know where you live. So have a picture of your ID, but cover up your address on it. Tip number 9, when you're here in Las Vegas on your vacation. This pertains more to if you're going to be off the strip, walking around, again, in areas that are less touristy, there's not as many people around and that kind of thing. Walk around as if you know the area. Now, some of you might think, well, what does that mean? When you're walking around, this will help you not look like a tourist. If you're walking around and say you're walking, down Paradise, or you're walking on Tropicana or whatever it is east of the strip, you don't want to be walking around just like rubbernecking all over the place. You're just like this. That totally tells people you're brand new to the area, you don't know where you're going, you're just amazed by walking past, Ellis Island, you're just staring off at that. So when you walk around, the less you do that, the less likely you are to look like a tourist, and the less likely you are to be a target for someone who's looking to rob somebody. So if you're gonna be off the strip, walking around those areas, you can take a look around, right? I mean, if you have to stop somewhere because you are lost, pull out your phone, you pull out your GPS, you're tapping on your phone. No one's gonna know whether you're looking at a GPS to figure out where you're going or whether you're just stopping to send a text message. Nobody's gonna know that. So the way to put it is act natural. Try to act like you are familiar with the area. Because I've seen that same thing too, working nightlife in Vegas, where I've worked at places before that have hundreds of employees, and sometimes people walk up there and you don't necessarily know who they are, but you can tell that they're familiar when they walk up there with the building, because they'll walk right up and they're not like looking, whoa, look how big this place is, look at the lights. That's not what they're looking at when they get there. They're just walking right in for a purpose, which is to come to work. So you ask them, hey, do you work here? Yes. Okay, you chat with them, then they go inside and work. People get out of other cars, they get out and they're just like, wow, and they're looking all over the place. You know they're here visiting, you know they're here as a tourist. So don't do that as much if you're walking outside the strip in an area you're not familiar with. Just try to act natural, try to act like you are familiar with the area, even if you are a little lost, and just try to do what you can to try to look less like a tourist who's here in Vegas. Tip number 10, for those of you visiting Las Vegas on vacation, is if you're gonna take a taxi, which I recommend Uber and Lyft anyway, and I'll put links down below, you can sign up for Uber and Lyft if you haven't done so yet. But if you're gonna take a taxi, when you get in the taxi, take a picture of their TA card. The TA card is going to be right on their dashboard, right where the passenger seat is. Why do I say to do that? Take a picture because taxi drivers are notorious in Vegas for long hauling people. And long hauling is when you take somebody on a trip and they say, take me from point A to point B, and they take a longer way around than is necessary, so the fare increases, so it winds up costing you more money. Taxi drivers in Vegas have a reputation for doing that as a whole. So what you can do, get in that taxi, let them see you do it. Okay, let them see you do it, let them see you take a picture of their TA card, because that has their first name, their last name, the company they work for, and their number as a driver. So you take a picture of that card, they have to have it displayed. Take a picture of it, send it to yourself, but also send it to another person. If you have a friend back home, a friend here or a friend back home, wherever you're visiting from, send it to them so that now the driver knows you have their personal info. So if the driver does long haul you or try to pull some kind of scam, they can't hide. You have their name, you've got the company they work for, you have their identification number, you have all the info you need to report that driver. And you time-stamped it when you sent the message to someone else, so if they do pull a scam, or in case of a really bad scenario, you can't be found, at least people know the last place they saw you, the last place you were at, and what time you were seen. And your bonus tip for safety in Las Vegas, you guys know I like to throw in a bonus every now and again, is simply carry a small flashlight. Seriously, carry a small flashlight with you when you're here on your vacation, even if you normally don't in your daily life. I would encourage you to carry one with you here because it helps, especially at night, okay? If you're trying to walk around, and one, you wind up walking someplace where there's not great lighting, which does happen outside of the tourist areas here. Also, two, if you're walking the street or trying to cross somewhere, and we do have a high rate of pedestrians getting hit here in Nevada. We do. It's unfortunate, but in a place where you have drinking 24 hours a day, we have a fair share of pedestrians who get drunk and do something stupid, go in front of cars, or people who get drunk and get behind the wheel of a car. So when you're walking with your flashlight, you have it to flash and signal and say, hey, I am here. This one I like. I got a 2-pack of these for $9.99 on Amazon. It comes with the battery too. So I'll put the link for it down below. You guys want to buy these, so if your husband and wife coming, perfect, one for each of you. If you're coming with kids, if you're coming with the family, I definitely recommend you have this, because if you're with the family trying to cross a crosswalk somewhere, you want to have light on you. This one even has strobe on it, so you can strobe like on the ground, wherever, make light so a driver can make sure that they see you. So carry a small flashlight with you. It might help you out in a situation where you may not have thought you needed it. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you want to check out another great video about Las Vegas, be sure to click right over here. That's gonna be it for this one. I am Jacob. This is My Life in Vegas.